when you said
Come on.
It's on. Okay, Mom. Now, what was your mother's name?
my mother's name was Eva Bouquet,
That's her maiden name?
maiden name.
Now, what was your father's name?
Ted Tardie.
And how do you spell
Theodore Tardie.
How do you spell Tardie?
T-A-R-D-I-E.
There you go, D-I-E,
Yeah.
not T-A-R-D-Y.
T-I-E.
Now, how many children did your mother have?
9 children.
And what were their names?
Well, of course you had death in there.
Yep, name them all. Who's the first?
The first one was born a boy and he died right off.
What, do you know what his
No,
name?
I don't. I guess they didn't name him. They didn't name him.
AJ, come over here. Sit right over here.
Then there was
Hold it,
brother Leroy.
hold it.
Everyone's back on.
It's on.
Okay, Mom, what was the oldest passed on. What was the next person born?
Leroy, my oldest brother, who was passed away about 2 or 3 years ago
Now, he lived where?
in Oregon.
And did he have any children?
He had 3.
3 children.
Yeah, Larry, Vicky. No, wait a minute. Vicky's the first one, then Larry, and oh wait a minute. I'm all messed up. Loretta is the first one, and then came Vicky, and then Larry, because Larry's the same age as George.
Oh, I didn't know
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Now, do you know where they live today?
They live in California, and
All of them live
he
in
has a
Cal-
big business, Larry, and he has an airplane. He came down a couple of times to see Lorraine and all them.
He flew out here. And
Yeah.
did he leave any money to you?
The last time I saw him in
Do you have a social security number for him? Since he has money?
yeah, 19,
So okay, you got who's the third?
1957 was the
Who's
last
the
time
third?
I saw them.
The last time you saw your brother Leroy was
Yeah,
1950s?
well, no, he came here.
Yeah, because I'm going to say you told me he came
Yeah, yeah. He did.
Okay. And
Okay, now who's the next one? The next, so Leroy,
And then Clifford.
Clifford.
The one who was killed in the service.
Clifford died in the service. Now tell us a little about Clifford.
Well, he was, Leroy and Clifford were on the farm during those years.
Was he tall? Was Clifford
No,
tall?
not tall.
Slender.
Slender kind of.
Slender, what do you
Right.
think, 5'6"?
About that.
5'6",
Yeah,
yeah?
very slender man. Young. He was killed. He died at 26
Now
years old.
what did he love about life? Did he have like a...
Oh, he was he was a great dancer. You remember that dancer?
Fred Astaire?
Exactly. You made me think of him.
He liked Fred, he was like Fred
He was
Astaire.
thin like that, and he could dance. I'll tell you, the floor would shake.
Now, how old was he drafted or did he enlist?
Drafted.
He was
Yeah.
drafted?
Then he was called. My father had a bad knee.
Yeah.
Couldn't do any farm work.
Okay.
So he was deferred, and he stayed on the farm for a while till Pa got better. And anyway, the farm was never his thing. He never.
Yeah, he
cared
didn't
for,
like the
He
farm.
didn't care for farm.
Was he
I
excited?
remember my mother crying. Hollering every morning. His name to he'd sleep while my father needed help with milk the cows.
So he'd holler, Theodore?
Yeah, no, Clifford!
Clifford, time to go milk the cows?
Yeah, and he wouldn't budge, and she kept saying that, and after a long, long Clifford business.
So we know where we got the non-sleeping thing.
I can remember my father once was so mad, it was in the winter time,
Yeah?
and he got right from the barn, he walked right up to the house, he went upstairs, and he got him, and he was barefoot, he made him walk right in the snow, right into the barn. He was so mad because he wouldn't get up.
Now, Clifford, how old was he when he went into the military?
Oh, he was in his 20s. He died at 26.
26?
Yeah.
And now when he went to basic training, did he come home on leave before he went to Europe?
No, he
Went right from basic training?
Yeah, he.
So you never, after he went to the service, you never saw him again?
When he was deferred there.
Yeah, so he
and
went
then
in?
he went back. I remember going into his bedroom. You had to go through my bedroom, and then it was a hall, and he was sleeping there. And I knew the war was on, and I went in there and I shook my head like that, and I knew he was going back, and he didn't. And that last letter, that was the last letter I got. He was killed after that.
Now he went to. When Clifford went back into the service, did they already? Was D-Day? Did D-Day already happen? They were in Normandy already. Do you know if
I
he
was
was
the-
involved in D-Day?
He fought terrible.
Do
He
you know
fought in
that-
Africa, Sicily, Italy, and France.
Oh my gosh! So
And
he
was
fought
killed
through
in
all.
Germany.
And he was at the
and
he was.
he wrote a letter and he said it was just like 4th of July.
Now, the
and
letter
like-
he wrote, did he write it to you or did he write it to the...
He wrote to my mother, you know.
Okay.
And I was the one that wrote back because my mother couldn't write English.
So he wrote to the family,
Yeah.
told them that the war was like 4th of July,
Yeah,
same exploding.
and there was only one. There was one letter. There was a hole in it. They cut right out because he said too much. And
Okay,
they used to check the letters.
right. And do you know what his job was in the
In
military?
the tank.
Was he a tank
You saw the
driver?
letter.
Was he a tank driver or?
He was killed in the tank.
But do you know what he did in the tank?
We got his rosary, and there was a letter, and it said that there was bloodstains on that, and he had his pocketbook, his wallet, rather.
Yeah.
We got that back, and Purple Heart.
Was he married?
I was sleeping upstairs
What?
that morning, and I heard them moaning, crying down there. I didn't know what, so I ran down. There was an officer at the door.
Yeah, so you knew. That
Yeah.
And how old were you when your brother died?
I was 18.
You were 18 at that time.
Was he married?
No, never got married.
So who's the next after Clifford? Who was after Clifford?
Then there's Marie.
Marie.
Which Marie. My sister died at 6 years old.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
Mom never.
Do you remember?
Never stopped talking. I used to wear her slips.
No, you were younger than Marie.
No, she was older than me.
Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah.
And
I
who was
was-
after Marie?
And then there was another girl that died overnight. It's a 10 months and a half baby. My two brothers had cholera.
Yeah.
You know, it had it so bad. Mom said she could hear their bellies roll in the other bedroom. In the bedroom, she got it and she didn't make it in the night. She died that morning. 10 months.
And what was her
10
name?
and a half months. Jeanette.
Jeanette. And then after Jeanette,
There's Theodore. My
Theodore.
brother Theodore. And then my sister Lorraine. which
Now
she's
Theodore,
very sick.
Theodore is the one that lives in Vermont, right?
He lives in what's it, South Hero.
Teddy. We call him Teddy,
I
right?
called him that not too long ago.
Yeah, we call him Teddy, right? His
Yeah.
name's Theodore, but everybody calls him Teddy.
Yeah, not me. I never called him Teddy.
You always call him Theodore.
Theodore.
And he's
Uh-huh.
living where now?
He's living in South Hero, but he
South where?
South Hero, Vermont.
Okay.
But he also has a place in Florida. He goes in the winter,
Okay.
and he just barely come back today. He's supposed to had Easter with one of his children,
And he has how many
and he
kids?
had a bad fall from the
That's right.
ladder.
You told me that.
Yeah, and he broke pelvis, and he had an operation. He's having a hard time to walk.
And then it's you, right? After
Oh,
Theodore?
did I forget Armin?
Yeah, because I
My-
thought there was
My
something.
gosh, I forgot.
Where did Armin come from?
Yeah.
Armin's after Theodore, right?
He's older than I am.
Yeah, Armin's after Theodore, right?
No, Armin is before Theodore. He's older.
Before. Oh, Armin's older than
Yeah, I
Theodore.
forgot about
So it's Jeanette and then Armin.
Jeanette. Yeah, I don't know who was Jeanette and Marie. Where they were there anyway.
And then Armin. Tell me about Armin.
Armin. Well, he's. I just called him in there.
What about
My gosh, he broke his. He
Growing,
just had an operation with his shoulder. And he's
what
not-
about growing up with them? You got any interesting stories?
Well, I have a few things with Armin. You know, Armin,
Like-
he loved fishing and hunting. His whole love was in that. And we had a brook in the back of the house, way down. We used to go down and see all these little minnows and the little fish, trouts,
Mhm.
trout. And used to get them, catch them. He just loved us very much, and he always loved. He went to Alaska and fished.
Now you said Theodore. You said was it Theodore that had the fishing business in California?
No, in Alaska.
Alaska.
Yeah.
Okay, he did it in Alaska.
Yeah.
And then Armin
Yeah,
did
we
it.
died there, too.
Armin went to Alaska with him.
Well, no,
Wait a minute.
they went on a trip a few years
Wait a
ago.
minute. Who almost died in Alaska?
My
Theodore?
brother Theodore.
What happened?
He almost got gas with his boat. He was sleeping, and the gas was so bad in there that he dragged himself out and just barely made it.
Oh, so they had gas heaters in the
Oh.
boat. and then Theodore, and then after Theodore it was yourself,
and then Lorraine.
and then Lorraine.
Okay, she's going to talk about just growing up with each other.
Well, tell me about your grandparents. What were their names?
My grandparents, I didn't know
On your mother's side.
Yeah, I never knew them by name.
I
never knew my grandmother anyway.
You never knew.
But I remember my grandmother Tardie and grandfather Tardie.
That's on your father's side.
Yeah, but my grandmother Bhutan died very young. She
Now,
was 48.
Let me know how. Do you know where the family came from? Was it through Canada? Canadian
Canada.
French? Now, do you know
I've
if
got my birth certificate, and that shows my parents where they were born.
Do you know where in Canada they were born?
Saint-Bastien one and Cook-Shield the other one.
Okay, so they were both born in Canada. Now, do you know if their
And they
parents?
came down with my grandmother. My grandmother came down, and my grandfather did.
And what do you
And
know?
my grandfather had a
Tardie? Good.
he
Tardie,
built
right?
a house in Burlington, too. My mother said. Anyway, he had a store business in Canada, but in bankrupt. He went bankrupt.
Hmm. Do you know if they were born there? Your grandparents were born in Canada.
Yeah, they were.
Now, do you know how many generations that were lived in Canada?
I know my mother spoke about her grandfather,
Yeah,
and she said he was. They didn't have anything too much.
yeah,
They used to their dessert was molasses.
yeah. That's where you get the molasses candy,
Yeah.
huh?
And
Now, let me ask you this. Do you know if any of your father's ancestors or your mother's ancestors came from France or England?
I don't know that, but I know my mother spoke much about England.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you think that maybe on that side they came from England?
Well, I think they were.
Do you know what your mother's maiden name was?
Bhutan.
Bhutan.
Well, those are very French names. I mean, they're not.
And
they're not
all
always-
my aunts and all the 17 children, some of them, but all of them lived I lived on the farm in Williston, and they all surrounded. They had farms here and
So
there.
everybody
All
had
my
farms
uncles
right in
and-
Vermont.
Yeah, my uncles all lived around, and now it's all around.
Now, tell me, did you guys used to have like big celebrations, the whole family, your parents' families, and everybody get together?
Well, I remember my aunt Mary, not Mary Jane, but my aunt Mary.
Hmm.
She was a big lady, and she married my mother's brother, and that was my father's sister.
Hmm.
And they used to come down with the kids, all my cousins, and boy, they would play upstairs, and upstairs, and they would make so much noise. But that didn't last too long, no.
So you don't remember any
My cousin,
big family parties?
my cousin Dorothy I was very close. She was just like a sister to me, and I loved her so much. I was only first grade, and I went to school one day, and I knew she was home. See, we didn't go to the same school, and I knew she was home, and I took a cry. I cried so much. I wanted to go home and play with her. I cried. The school teacher, tried everything they could to keep me there, ring the bell, do what, and I just couldn't stand it. Cry, and they said, "Oh, go on home then." So I went home, and I went to play with my cousin. My father found that out. He let me know, and don't you try that again. I never forgot that.
Was that the time you couldn't speak English?
Oh, when I started school, I couldn't speak English, but I had to learn. It was, and I used to study the words, study. I didn't know what they meant, and I used to ask the neighbor of mine, a girl, she's about a year older than
Yeah.
me, what does that word mean? And we had a horse, named Anna.
Yeah, Anna,
And,
Banana.
yeah, and that horse was so smart. I'd ask the horse, I'd go up to it, I said, "Do you like bananas, Anna?" "Do you like pickles, Anna?" "Oh, you do that." I don't know who taught the horse that. So
Now, did your dad have a lot of animals on the farm? Was it
No, we had
a
no
cattle farm or
cattle farm,
so a lot of cows?
cows, and we had everything. We had a pony, we had
Now,
a goat. We had
right.
at one time
how big?
a sheep, and a lamb, I took that lamb to school one day.
Yeah?
I did. You know, the
Show and tell?
the teacher wanted all kinds of animals that one day. So I had my lamb, and you had to walk it about 1.5 miles to school.
And how did
At
the
least
lamb,
a mile.
How did the lamb like walking
And
to
it
school?
kept going. And it was going. I got it to school. So I brought it in school, you know, and everything. But I had to turn him out, and he did his messing, and he was messy in the school. So I, at the end of the day, well, we had pigeons too. We had oh my God, our teacher was good like that though. She'd bring out all kinds of things. We had weenie roast all the time, every so often,
Yeah.
weenie roast. And when it got very hot at the end of the year, we had school outdoors. And you know, of course, we didn't have any heating system, just a furnace in there. And one of the kids was a janitor, and he'd go in the shed and he'd get a big block of wood and throw it in.
Throw 'em all away.
Yeah, that's how we kept warm. When we started school, no heat at all. We had to play games to keep warm till the janitor get the fire going.
Oh.
And no water, no running water. We had to go in the woods and get our water, where the frogs was in the
Yeah.
spring, you know. And then finally we got a little jug there, and they had a little faucet, and we'd fill that up. And the toilet, no flush toilet. It was way down. Yeah.
What about toilet paper? You had toilet paper?
Well, there was rough stuff.
Rough toilet paper. Now, so let's go on a few years. So, I mean, your parents, how old was your mother when she passed away?
My mother was 71.
71. Now, your dad, he had the farm for how long?
Oh, several years after the war. Then he went cattle dealing.
And
He
what?
was a cattle dealer for quite a while.
So he sold and bought cattle?
Yeah, and then he had the farm just the same
Yeah.
going on. And he did pretty well. He
Did well and
yeah,
everything? And
yeah.
then what happened?
Then
just
they
that-
sold the farm, and that farm is worth a great deal of money now. Imagine that.
And is it still a farm today, do you know?
I don't know. Our barn burnt, they tell me.
Yeah.
And they built a garage there.
Okay.
Oh, so I love that
So
barn.
after you-
I love that barn so much.
Now, why did your dad sell the farm, do you know?
Well, my brothers were gone,
Yeah.
you know, and he couldn't do it alone, and sold it. And then they bought a house here, and they bought a trailer, and they sold that, and they had 3 houses, and then they finally built this little house. Then Ma passed away after that.
And what'd she pass away of?
She had a heart attack.
Heart attack and everything. And then your dad, he lived for quite a few years afterwards, right?
Yeah, well, 5 years.
5 years.
And then he had a stroke.
Yeah. I remember when you brought me to see him in the hospital.
Yeah.
I was still young.
Yeah, you were with me,
I do
yeah.
have one memory of you.
Yeah,
of
I
seeing
bet you
him.
do.
Yeah. And then he passed on.
Yeah.
And then, now, how old were you when you got married? When did you meet Dad?
I met him, I was...
You said you met him at a dance, right?
No, I didn't. It was a woman, a neighbor of ours. She knew your father from way back in
Yeah.
Barrie. I never met him. Leroy, my oldest brother, met him. He said he was very shy boy. He was shy. And Mrs. Senna, she said, gee, I'd like you to meet this young man, you know. And it was a Sunday, and he was to come up from Barrie.